Today we are joined by Coach Tommy Strine. Coach Strine is currently the Director of Basketball Operations at Lamar University in Texas. Before coming to Lamar, Coach spent the season with Cleveland State University as the Director of Basketball Operations, 3 seasons as the Director of Basketball Operations at American University, and 1 season as the video coordinator at the University of Richmond. His stops at Richmond and American were instrumental in developing his philosophy on the Princeton offense. Coach Strine got his start in collegiate basketball as an assistant coach at Concordia University in Ann Arbor and entered the coaching profession as a JV coach and varsity assistant at Marion High School in Marion, Indiana. Coach, I know I'm supposed to start calling this the Richmond offense now instead of the Princeton offense, so we're excited to have you on today to talk about the Richmond offense.
I appreciate that. And I wouldn't even say the Richmond offense. I was trying to come up with something after we talked the other day, trying to come up with something that I could call it. But we'll just call it the offense. How's that sound? Just to go from there, because so in case Coach Mooney watches this, I don't want to make him upset or anything like that by calling it the Princeton offense. But no, I'm excited. Like I said, it's cool to see some familiar faces on here. Like I said, Stephen Halstead on here from my time at Spiece, working there. Coach Roush, he's a legend up there in Fort Wayne. So good to see him on here, and Lamont Franklin, probably one of the biggest dobos in the country on here. So I'm excited for that, and I appreciate you guys having me on here and get to talk a little bit, like you said, about the quote unquote Princeton offense, the offense. Like you said, the reason that I'm comfortable talking about this is from my time at Richmond and American. So when I was at Richmond, I was a video coordinator, so pouring over hours and hours and hours of film of this offense, and then at American, I was there for 3 years, and every day it was an hour and a half, 2 hours of running the offense, working on the offense, stuff like that. And then Coach Carrill, who actually designed the offense and it's actually named after Pete Carrill, Hall of Famer, getting to ride with him back and forth from Princeton to DC when he would come down to practices and just learn why he even started the offense, what the reasons were for it, and then different ideas that he had for it and different things that he did for it. So being able to kind of do all those things and learn all those things, I'm excited to share some video with you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here and pull up my screen and kind of talk you through a couple things here, a couple teaching points here. Let me see. Okay. So like I said, the Princeton offense, I'm just going to call it the offense. Coach Mooney, I'm sorry. So here we are, and just a couple things to preface as we get started is, as I show film, you're going to see a couple different ways to run different things in this offense, right? At American, it was much more structured. It was much more the original Princeton versus Georgetown rock fight type, let's run the offense. Your offense kind of creates your shots for you, right? At Richmond, it was more so of here's the structure of the offense, kind of just play basketball, so the whole, and I'll kind of show you a little bit of what I mean with both of those as we kind of get going a little bit. But can everybody see my cursor here? That's the first thing that I got to make sure everybody can see my cursor.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's start out with what makes the offense, right? The general rule of thumb is if you have 5 guys on the floor that can dribble, pass, and shoot, you're going to be really, really good. Now, I'm going to say this. I think that if you have 5 guys on the floor that can dribble and pass, you can get away with 2 or 3 guys that can't shoot. Your center has to be able to shoot the ball, though. It has to be able to make plays. I think that's the key for it. If you have a 5-man that can really, really dribble, pass, and shoot, you're going to be really, really effective in the offense. We at Richmond, and I'll show you in some clips, we had 2 guys on the floor that couldn't really shoot. And in college basketball, everybody can, make a shot, obviously, with enough time and space. And, if they can measure the wind and everything like that and the rotation of the earth and everything like that, they can probably make a shot. So, but you can get away with a couple guys that can't shoot, but key, if you can do those 3 things, it's really important. And Coach Carrill's big thing is he would practice those things every day at the beginning of practice. So if you're going to do something with this offense, make sure that, you're drilling this stuff at the beginning of practice. You're drilling, you're doing dribbling, you're doing passing, and you're shooting. Guys that move with pace really help make this offense. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by it. At Richmond, Coach Mooney would really, really preach pace, pace, pace. So he was constantly saying, move with pace, move with pace. Even in shoot-arounds before games, it was always, how quick can you move? Guys get lazy, especially, as the season progresses and you get and you start to get tired. So really try to push pace with this. I think is important. Guys that are unselfish is really important, and it's not necessarily unselfish with the ball. Coach Mooney, I walked into my first ever college coaching, locker room meeting with the players, right? And I'm thinking, oh man, here we go. This is going to be a huge, breaking down everything that we're going to do from, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and, all the rules. And I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Coach Mooney walks in. He said, I have one simple rule for everything that we do in our program. Don't be a jerk, and walked out. And I was like, it was 2 minutes. And I was like, he said, hi to everybody, said, don't be a jerk, and walked out. And it kind of made sense to me as I, started to go along, that it was, if you're unselfish on the floor and you're unselfish off the floor, everything in this offense works, everything in your program works. Just be a good person, be a good teammate, and everything kind of goes with it. Positionless players kind of goes with dribble, pass, and shoot. I'll show you some examples on film where our point guard at Richmond was 5'6", one of the best players in Richmond history. He ended up playing the center position in this offense sometimes just because he knew the offense inside and out, and he was positionless. These last two things I think are really, really important. It's not a clock management offense. It's not. A lot of the clips I'll show you, you're scoring in 7 to 10 seconds, right? There's a misconception, I think, a lot of times when you if you were to pull up Ken Palm or one of these metric things, if you were to pull one of those up, they would say, oh, Richmond's in the, bottom 150 in pace per play, and Americans play slow. And really what I found as I went through it all was it's not the offensive part. It's that they both play matchup zones that nobody can figure out. So on the other end of the floor, everybody's taking 25, 28 seconds to get a shot off. And so the possessions just are less. So it's not a clock management offense. You don't have to say, oh, we're going to move back and forth, back and forth 10 times. We're going to reverse the ball 7 times. We're not looking to score. You are looking to score. Now at American, as opposed to Richmond, American is more so defined of, these are your scoring options. Richmond, you're always looking at, every time that you touch the ball, you're looking to get a shot. Somebody else is looking to get a shot. And I'll explain that a little bit more. And then you can implement these elements into any offense, right? If you don't run the quote unquote Princeton offense, to a T, and that's not your whole thing, you can take different parts of this offense and add it into your motion offense. You can add it into, I've seen teams, European teams, I've seen run a lot of this stuff into their ball screen motions, stuff like that. Just different principles that you can take from the like I said, the offense and put into your offense if you really want to. You see a lot of NBA teams doing some stuff with this as well, just out of sets. So you can use them as sets. You can use them in your normal offense. And I'll show you different ways that Richmond kind of did that and American kind of does that as far as just implementing it into just any offense possible. So some teaching points that I think that are very, very important that I want to point out now, and then as we're going through the film, I'll kind of show you what I mean by them. Get low on your cuts. Coach Brennan preaches this all the time, and this is something that you do during your practices. When you cut, you want to get your shoulder down to the guy's knee as much as possible. And actually, I'll show you a couple clips, and I'll point them out. We also taught hand fighting at American, where you're telling guys swim moves like football players. Get their hands off of you, and if referees are any good, you should be able to get to the foul line quite a bit on cuts, especially with the freedom of movement rules and stuff like that, especially in college and high school. But you got to get low on your cuts. Makes guys react, stuff like that. Bring your man all the way to the screen. I'll explain that, and that's one of those things. So there's not really quote unquote screens in the offense. There is, but I'll show you what the difference is. You're meeting at points as opposed to meeting at men. So I'll kind of show you that a little bit. When in doubt, cut back door. That's an American thing. That's a Coach Brennan thing. Pace. Talked about that earlier. The next two things sound simple, but are very, very important for this offense. And I think any offense are perfect passes. So every day in practice, two-hand chest passes, one-handed bounce passes off the dribble, finishing towards the rim. And I'll explain that a little bit too. A lot of times guys, when they want to throw backdoor cuts, they want to be fancy. They want to throw them and run towards half court and, do the whole, show off a little bit thing, but you got, because you're throwing backdoor passes in traffic, you want to put something on them. You want to lead guys towards the rim. So you want to really work on finishing towards the rim with your passes, being strong with those passes, and then catching the ball with two hands. And as simple as that sounds, you don't work on it enough in practices, I don't think. Guys catching the ball, catching it in different areas, two finishes on backdoor catches, and then, some pre-practice shots out of points. So, just some general rules: get their hands off of you. Skip passes are your friend. Work on skip passes in practice. Cut behind guys if you can. And I'll show you examples of why you do that. It kind of forces help a little bit, and go from there. So I'm not going to run through this stuff yet. So that's something that I'll go over in a second. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again here. We're going to bring up some synergy stuff. So what I'm going to do is as I go through this film, I'm going to start with the building blocks. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is your starts. And the simplest thing to say about this is two guard front, right? So your two guards, and then two forwards and a center. And so ideally, the first one is just your two basic guard front where your two guards are staying high. So here we are. This is American. So basically, you guys can see my cursor still, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So ideally, as you look at the floor here, the spacing is decent. Now this is a freshman down here, so he's still learning. But this is basic. Two guard fronts, your two forwards here, and they need to be free throw line extended, and you want their butt to the sideline as wide as they possibly can, right? Now, if your center is really good, and I'll show you some examples with TJ from Richmond when I was there that he's really good with. He would be on this back line back here, almost like it's a zone, like it's against a zone. Like, what you want to do is you want this center here. You want him to feel uncomfortable, and I'll show you a couple examples of when I was at Richmond. We played Miami, Florida, in the NIT, of how he kind of got uncomfortable a little bit. They had a center that was really, really good that we tried to make uncomfortable by putting TJ back here, and TJ did a really good job of it. But so your basic setup is two guards. Now, like I said earlier, Coach Carrill created this offense because what he ended up having was, and I'll show you in a second, is he had two guards that could really, really score the ball but weren't very good playmakers, and he had two forwards that couldn't score the ball but were pretty decent playmakers. So he created this offense where he could get these guys, these forwards, out to the guard spots easier than what he could in a normal offense. But right here, this is just your normal two guard front where you're going to send. They call this sending the guy through. So as you start the offense, you start with your two guard front, and you're trying to get the ball to point here, right? So this is a two guard front. You're going to send what they call the second guard. So the guy that doesn't have the ball, he's considered your second guard. He can be 6'9", he can be 5'9", but he's considered your second guard because he doesn't have the ball, right? So his responsibility, and Jameer doesn't do a great job here of it, but like, he's new too, so he's still learning. His job is to get the center open. So really, he's supposed to be running directly at this center here. And trying to get that guy open, and not necessarily set a screen as much so as just run directly at that guy and make him feel uncomfortable, right? So Jameer is going to run directly at this guy, and here's a teaching point that I think is very, very important. That the details are very important in this offense, very important, I think, in any offense. Is this guy with the ball needs to get to the center of the floor. So bring him to the center of the floor. He can't be this lane line or this lane line. Bring him to the center of the floor. It just helps with your spacing a little bit. So here we go. We send him through. Now, again, Jameer's got to do a better job of getting him open because he's not going to catch the ball where we want. Okay. So so as you're sending this guy through, we call this shooting up. This center is shooting up, and he's going to shoot up here to this elbow here. And that's what we call point. Right. Guys are going to call it different things. We call it, I learned, the way that I learned was I learned to call it point. So we're going to send up here, and we want to catch this ball as close to the elbow as possible. And that's why you want to kind of stay back here as much as possible, make this guy uncomfortable. Also, that's why his responsibility is to get this guy open. Okay. So as you send the guard through, he's going to go through to the opposite corner of where he came. All right. Same side wing. He's going to this corner down here. And Coach Carrill would say he wants him standing almost out of bounds, right? He's not going to. Coach Carrill, obviously, he's, back in the 70s when he created this offense, he was a little bit more old school. So he wanted this guy almost standing completely out of bounds for spacing reasons. You guys can play with that a little bit. But anyway, and so here we go. We shoot up here. And like I said, this guy doesn't do a great job at catching at the elbow. He denies it. We throw it here. And then you're in point from there. And I'll explain the rest of the point series later, but that's the general start right there. You have a guy in the corner, ball side's in the corner here, trying to catch at the elbow. And then you're just, you're 4-around-1, free throw line extended. This guy needs to be deep in the corner here. And that's your spacing out of your basic 2-guard front. Okay. So that's just your basic 2-guard front. Now this is what we call forwards out. Okay. So this is what happens when your guards are good scorers and your forwards are good playmakers, and you want to try to get your guards shots, right? You want to get them closer to the basket where they're making decisions on how to use screens, and you're really putting your forwards that are more skilled than the other team's forwards out on the perimeter a little bit more away from the basket, where they're having to defend in different areas than what they're normally used to. So basically, forwards out is you're just interchanging, okay? Now this is actually a call. This is a play that we would call out a transition at Richmond, but it kind of shows you the difference of forwards out. As you can see, this is a bad pass, throws the timing off. This would be a negative for us. But again, you have your 2 guards. These guys become guards. They were forwards, they become guards now. And now your 2 guards are now in the forward positions, and your center's down below the block. So this is actually a call. This is something that you can run out of forwards out that we would run a lot of times, because this is a good player down here. This is our best player down here. We would just reverse the ball here, set a double away, and we have all this space down here for a little lob to an isolation. And we would isolate that. So that was just a basic one. Here's forwards out again. Okay, so here we are again. We reverse the ball, and as you can see, I don't know if you guys could see that one at all. But if I back it up here a couple seconds, see how our center down here is on the baseline. This guy's head's turned, has no idea what's going on. He just feels uncomfortable. Anytime you put a center in a position where he feels uncomfortable, you feel pretty good about it. And then here we are, we're setting this double away again for one of our best players. There's no help side. We get a wide open layup off of it. And that's a forwards out call. Now here's forwards out where we ended up going into point, I believe here. So here we are, forwards out. 2 guards again. These are your forwards. That's a 6'8" guy. That's a 6'8" guy. 5'6", 6'4". So here's our guards. Our center again, TJ. If you watch him from the start, he's way down here. You can't even see him in the frame. He's way down here, just making this guy flatten out. And you can see all the space on the floor. So earlier when we sent the second guard through, right? This is now your second guard. We're going to send him through, right? And now we're into point. Now TJ goes up the wrong side. I'm not really sure why, but now we're into point. Terry should get out to the corner here, and I'll tell you about what we do to point. Kendall and TJ kind of messed that one up a little bit on the spacing here. So here we are again, forwards out. We get that little lob play there. So, and then here's the last one I want to show here on forwards out again. This is actually our center here. We actually flip-flop. This is a play call out of halftime at UMass. So here we are. We got our 2 guards to start. We're going forwards out. Our spacing starts well. Terry's down below. Probably could even be a step below. You can have him down here if you wanted to. We run it. We go forwards out. We reverse it here. Reverse it to the wing. Okay. And this is, like I said, this is a play call. We probably could have thrown this inside if we wanted to. But he cuts through, and we're just cutting our center back door for a layup. So that's the first thing, kind of your starts, and how to get into the offense, how to get your best players. If your guards are good, you want your guards in the wing spots. If your forwards are good, you want them in the wing spots. And then I'll kind of show you why as we move on to the point series. Now, are there any questions on the starts or anything like that? Anybody have any questions? Okay, good. So low post play is something that we didn't really necessarily do all that much at Richmond. TJ was more, they have more skilled five men. So they're not trying to throw the ball in the post as much. Now, when I was at American, we were trying to throw the ball in the post every time down the floor to start our offense. So we would run what we would call low post play, which is just another way to start the offense to a degree. And so all it is I don't know why it won't stop. Okay, here we go. So all this is you're reversing it through. Again, you can see you got your two guard front. Now this must be out of like a timeout or something like that because they already have their guards low. They didn't go forwards out. But all you're doing is reversing the ball. You have your post man here. Number 5 here will cut through. So he reverses, he cuts through. And if you throw it in here, it looks familiar, right? It looks like just like your forwards out or your two guard front. You're throwing it inside. Now, this is where things kind of change a little bit. When he throws it in, there's options. Okay. And it kind of starts with this guy. It's like a checklist. The guy that throws it in has the option. He can come and he can screen at this elbow for the guy at the top of the key and bring him towards the ball if he wants. He can go to the corner, and then and then what happens is if he comes to the corner, then it's this guy's option on what he wants to do. So it starts with him. He throws it in. He's deciding to go to the corner. So his option is I'm going to the corner. So now it becomes the guy at the top of the key's decision. He can cut through, and then everybody just replaces all the way around, which is typically what guys would do on this. Or he has the option, he can screen for number 0. If this is a shooter here, he can screen and bring that shooter around to the ball here. You're just trying to create as much movement as possible here so your post guy can isolate if he wants. So let's say that, 2 cuts through, everybody's just going to kind of space out here. Now this is, point. We'll talk about point in a little bit, but, and then you just kind of get some movement here. And I'll go to the next clip, but that's just like the basic low post play on that. Now, this is an example of your center not running, but I'll explain why I have this clip on here. You want your center running to the front of the rim. Obviously, I think that's kind of almost a universal thing anymore. But you still want him running to the front of the rim. And again, here we are. We got 2 guards, 2 forwards. Everything looks kind of familiar, right? You're getting back to what looks familiar here. So here we are. Mark needs to get here and post up, and you're looking to throw the ball inside. So again, we reverse the ball to the wing. He cuts through to the opposite side. We're going to throw it inside here. Throw it inside. Good. Boom. Number 5 is going to make his decision. He's making the decision. He's going to the corner. Okay. So he decides that he's going to the corner. Guy at the top of the key realizes there's nobody to screen. He's cutting through. And again, we're just filling. And we're going to play basketball out of it. And that's just another entry into the offense. And I'll show you what happens if you throw it back to the top of the key for point here in a little bit. Again, here we are, 2 guard front, two forwards. We throw it inside. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is what happens when you don't throw it inside, right? So this is an option off of the offense that you can run. And this is something that was exclusive to American that we ran that I thought was really interesting, that we ran quite a bit when I was there for my 3 years. So let's say that this guy's not open. I mean, he is open. You should definitely throw this inside, but we decide not to, right? So 5 needs to cut through with better pace over to this opposite corner. But what we would do is coach would say, let's dribble this guy back door. And this is a great way. Say that this is a big forward for you. Say that this is a 6, high school coaches say that this is a 6'6" guy that you want to get a post touch to. You can dribble this guy back door. So this spacing needs to be better because 5 needs to get out of the way earlier. But what you would do is you dribble that guy back door, and now you're here. So what happens is you reverse it here to 0, right? So you're reversing sides of the floor. Now, if you have a big forward, he can stop and post right here. You can throw it right inside to him. Why is he not open? Because that guy's in front of him, and he should be able to bury him underneath the rim, right? That's the reason that he's not open. And a lot of times, even if he is open and you don't throw it, that guy's going to over pursue, and he's still going to end up behind him down here. So if you can imagine that, you might want to throw it into the post there if you can. He doesn't. He comes out to the opposite ball corner here. So this is a guard here. So he's coming out to the opposite ball corner. We reverse it. And now we're reversing it through the center. And it's just, and this is where things get interesting really. And this is where you're trying to get back to something that is recognizable. to your offense. And you'll hear Coach Brennan. He would talk a lot about just get to something you recognize. So you're trying to get to your 4-out 1-in where you recognize it. And so here we go. We're reversing to the corner here. We get a double ball screen. And really it's more of a single. That guard here probably really isn't doing much other than, just getting in the way. But we're setting that screen, and all it becomes is a roll replace, basically. We're trying to throw it here, trying to throw it back and in. And again, because it's the double screen and there's so much movement, guys get messed up, and we can throw it inside. Skip pass is probably open too if you really wanted it to be. Like I said, skip passes in pre-practice are important, because I think the skip passes are travels here, but we're all right. So so I'm not going to show any more of those. So any questions on low post play and how to get into the offense through low post play if you guys have bigs that you want to throw the ball inside to?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you guys are setting that double away, the wing, does he goes down toward the baseline to set the defender up to go off the stagger?
Okay. Are you talking about on the starts or in the low post play?
Like when you guys did the forwards out and then you sort of hit the wing and then did a double away.
Right.
And then when that guy sets up, is it usually, let's say like you're looking inside and like you got a good post player, is it usually the guard who sets the first screen, will he help off on the post player, or the guy coming off the screen? I don't know if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. Honestly, that whole double away thing, that was more of a call that we would run. That was a play. I'm not going to put the name out there for anything of the play call, what it was called, but that was actually a play call that we ran. And the whole reason that would work is because that guy that was coming off that double screen was like the 4th all-time leading scorer in Richmond history. So it's like he was sucked up on it, so we knew that we could get something out of it. A lot of times if we would run something like that, the help side would probably be the weak side defender that was coming off the screen. Ideally, that's what you would want because the ball's so far away. But the reason that we would get it is because that guy that was coming off the screen that would be in normal help, or his man would be in normal help, was just a prolific scorer. So guys would hug up. He's the number 1 guy on the scouting report. So you kind of took advantage of that a little bit to be able to get that. The key to that whole play though is your center being behind their center, where he can pin him high and you're just trying to get everything above the block. So you can just throw almost a lazy pass in there because there is no help side.
Okay.
So really that whole play, and it's probably unfair that I put it on there so many times, but it was just such a good set for us, or such a good example of forwards out and how it can work. The whole thing is if you can get your best player coming off a double screen, a lot of times that guy's hugged up on that weak side and there is no help side. And that's the good thing about going forwards out in that instance is a lot of times those 2 forwards that are guarding that double screen, they're not used to being out there. And high school coaches, even those guys are in college, and those guys have no idea what's going on because they're just not used to guarding, staggered screens out on the perimeter after they just had to, with guys with the ball. So they're not dropping into help side. They're not used to that type of stuff. So doing that really helps. But obviously having your best player coming off a double screen also helps, because what ended up happening a couple times when we'd run that play is that guy is in help side taking away the lob after we beat him a couple times. Now you have your best player stopping at the top of the 3-point line wide open with nobody around. And so that's, like I said, that's more of a set play than anything else. So.
And then I had one more question. We sort of ran a 4-out 1-in this year,
right,
with the Princeton spacing, but not with the Princeton concepts. And we could never get like middle drives because only open was the baseline. So I had how do you guys generate middle drives if it comes in just playing?
Right. I'll show you some examples of how we generate middle drives. A lot of it's off ball screens and rubs. So I'll show you that later on. And like I said, like some of it is just the way that teams are going to like play you. Like the Princeton offense is based off of baseline drives. Like you want baseline drives, because everything's setting up to be high out on the floor. Again, and the reason being is because a lot of times your guards are your better players, and that's the reason Coach Crow kind of made the offense was. So I'll show you some ways to get into the middle of the paint. And like I said, a lot of that's off ball screen stuff. But a lot of it though is just read and react. just read and react, be a basketball player. Coach Brennan would always tell guys, the defense is going to tell you which way to drive. You just got to read the defense. And it's almost like, you don't want to force yourself into a middle drive if it's not open. Like if a guy's playing me to drive to the baseline and get a layup on the baseline, I'm not going middle hell or high water. I'm just going to go ahead and go baseline and go score. But I get what you're saying. I'll show you a couple examples where non-shooters have been able to get to the middle of the rim, get to the middle of the paint to score a little bit and kind of go there. So, but those are good questions because a lot of your paint touches in this offense are coming from cuts. They're not coming from drives. That's and I know like the paint touch thing is like a big word in coaching. Like we got to get paint touches. Your paint touches are coming from cuts a lot of times in this offense. So you want to make sure that you're not over dribbling in that regard. So any other questions on the starts? That's kind of like I said, you got to start with the building blocks and the starts, low post play, and your forwards out and your 2-guard front.
One quick question regarding kind of the low post play. So you mentioned how most of the time, like you're having more of a skilled post player rather than like a back to the basket. So most of the time, if you have a skilled post player, is that more of a call than anything? Like more of a call that we're going to get him a touch here and then not necessarily going into your point action? Yeah,
it definitely is. And it's more so you're not trying to get your center touches when you do like when I at Richmond, we didn't throw the ball in the post hardly at all. Unless it was to our 4-man. Like now our 4-man was like 6'8" strong. He's like playing in Brazil or something like that right now, like making a ton. Like he was good. So like say that you would go into a game where you're like, okay, like we have a distinct advantage with our 4-man posting. We would do a lot of things like forwards out, point down the middle. I'll show you some of those things to be able to get him post touches. And one of the things about the offense that's great is that you can be selective with that, right? You can be selective with who you're getting your post touches to. It just didn't make sense for us to throw the ball into TJ Klein as much because in the A-10, he was a 6'8" kid that couldn't jump over, an Auburn, Indiana phone book. So it was like it didn't make sense for us to throw it in against, guys at Dayton that were 6'11" that were going to the NBA or guys, at VCU. Like it didn't make sense for us to throw the ball into TJ against Mo Ali Cox. Mo Ali Cox is playing for the Colts now. So it didn't make sense for us to do that, but it made sense for him to throw it in against Travion Graham and get for a 4-man. So it made sense for us to throw the ball into Terry, against Travion Graham and try to get Travion Graham into foul trouble. So we would do that some, so you can be kind of selective on who you're throwing the ball into the post to. Now, as you start to run the offense some, and I'll show you some examples with American of how we're posting guards and stuff like that, where it just becomes kind of organic, where it's just, hey, we're running the offense, and because I cut here and this guy's in front of me, again, the defense is going to tell you exactly what to do. So if I'm cutting and the guy's in front of me, I'm not open because the guy's in front of me, which means I can bury him underneath the rim. Okay, now I don't care if you're 6 foot or if you're 7 foot. If you can bury your man underneath the rim and we can throw it to you, I'm going to throw it to you and you're going to score. So there's different ways to do that, and really it's about getting the best matchup. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and it didn't make sense for us. The only way that we were throwing the ball into TJ is if it was like a distinct advantage where it was like somebody switched and we're like, okay, we can throw the ball into TJ. He can score over the top of somebody, or something like, the forwards out that we showed where it was like, hey, we can get the help side away. And TJ was really smart, one of the smartest players I think I've ever been around. His mom's Nancy Lieberman. So he grew up around basketball his entire life. So he was very, very smart, So he knew that, hey, I can use my leverage here. I can use some guys, whatever their aggressiveness against them and do that. So that's a good question. Great question. But the more skilled your center is, you want him farther away from the basket really in this offense, because now you're taking shot blocker away a lot of times and you're just putting guys in like weird situations. And I'll show you in a second out of point. Actually, this little presentation here, I'll show you, what that does for you, being able to pull a center away from the basket, how you can get some good looks here. So any other questions on the starts on the foundation? All right. So the point series, and this is what everybody associates the offense to is point. And you'll hear some people call it different things. And Coach Jones at Richmond told me when I first started, he was like, I'll be able to tell who you learn the offense by what you call this series, what you call point. So obviously I learned it from Coach Mooney. So this is the first clip I showed, right? This is the 2-guard front here. You got your wings, you're shooting this guy up. Again, so he does a decent job of getting behind. He's got to get him open. We're dribbling to the middle of the floor, details. So here we are. So this is point, boom. So this is point down the middle, right? So the crazy thing about the offense is like, you're going to be able to, like, whatever the offense is what it's called. You're literally running point, and then this guy's going down the middle. Like, it's literally what it says it is. So it baffles me sometimes that Coach Brennan would be on the sideline and we really call a play and be like, hey, we're going forwards out, point down the middle. Everybody knows what it is, but we still run it. Like, and it's just like, because the offense is, you run it with pace and everything, you're going to get something off of it. So point down the middle. And this is something that's good if you're like forwards out, or you have a guard that you want to post. And I want to emphasize, I stopped it here because I want to emphasize the hand fighting here. Remember when I talked earlier about getting low on your cuts and the hand fighting and how important that was? Saeed, he's the all-time leading scorer in American history, in American University history. Bought into the system, awesome kid. He's fighting here. This guy's about 6'6". This is an Indiana kid, actually. It's Walter Ellis. He's fighting this kid here, right? And notice he's fighting his hands here. He's not going to get low enough probably, but he's fighting his hands and getting this guy off of him. And Coach Brennan's big on that. And he's probably not even open, but because he does that, this guy gets behind him. We're point down the middle. We throw this pass in here. Best player in the league gets a layup. So here's a perfect example. Now, coaches that want to run this, I don't know why this won't stop. Coaches that want to run this. This is a great offense. So this is Shaka Smart's VCU. This is the A10 quarterfinal. This is back when they were pressuring everything, and it was tough. So this is a great job of getting your center open. First off, Chandra does a great job of, again, TJ's back here, hands on his hips. Spacing's perfect here, absolutely perfect. Chandra is going to do a great job of sprinting at this man here and getting TJ open where TJ can catch it where we want to catch it. Now watch Kendall here. Again, detail-oriented stuff here. Watch Kendall's pass here and how he finishes passing towards the guy that's shooting up, right? So Chandra does a great job, runs right at him, actually catches a piece of him, so TJ can catch it kind of right where we want to catch it, right in that area right there. Perfect timing, right? Watch Kendall's pass, though. Kendall throws this, and he's finishing towards the rim. So he throws it to TJ, point down the middle, 2-foot finish. That's a 5'6" point guard in the A10. So you got that. All right, so here we are again. Let's run this back here. So again, we're cutting through. Now, luckily, the William and Mary guy gets lazy or whatever and decides that he's not going to deny this here, and we throw it where we want to. Now, so here's an example of posting your guard, right? So Steven, you asking me, what you want to post somebody. This would be a great time to go like forwards out and post a guard or post a forward. We're actually going to post a guard here. So we're throwing it here, and these are some of the options that you have here. So we're actually going to post him, right? Like, that's a great spot to post this guy. We throw it to this wing. I mean, you're not going to get much better post position than that. If he really wanted to, he could have buried him, and we could have thrown it right inside here. He kind of gives up post position a little bit, but again, you're not going to get better post position than that. But let's say that we don't throw it inside, and he's going to throw it inside on this clip, but just so that we guys can have an idea, on what comes next. And this is a way that you can get a middle drive here, is we're going to throw this back here and set this ball screen, right? And 41 would come off this ball screen. You just have a 2-on-1 side here. 4 would fill. Saeed would get to this corner, but then you're just a 2-on-1 with a roll replace, or your center could pop back and you're into 1-2-2, which I'll explain later on what to do there. But again, this is a way to throw the ball inside. Boom, we throw it inside, and then we're just spaced around, and you got a guard posting up. So this is a play. This is Miami, and Lamont left, so now I'm kind of upset. But this is again. So this is forwards out. So we're forwards out here, and this is something that if you have a skilled center, this is something that you can do. And again, remember earlier when I said at American you more run it as a system. Here at Richmond you more run it as an offense. So this is a difference. This is just an option that you have out of point down the middle, right? So we ran forwards out here. Again, get the ball to the middle of the floor. Great job. We cut through, kind of get in his way a little bit. Now, this is not – now, remember, the last clip, what do? We threw it to this wing here, and we set the ball screen, and we posted, right? So this time, instead, this is our best player down here. TJ realizes, hey, I got our best player down here. This guy's guarding me, has no idea what he's going to do on this pin down probably, right? So we reverse the ball, and instead of coming and setting this ball screen, and instead of posting here, he probably still could post, but everybody gets out of the way. We're going to come down and set a pin down here for our best player. Now watch what happens here. Our best player says, hey, this guy probably has no idea what's going on. TJ's a driller. Like, TJ's shooting 40% from 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut back door and make everybody uncomfortable. Remember what I said earlier, when in doubt, cut back door, be unselfish, cut back door, right? He cuts back door. I mean, there's not many guys in the country that aren't going to at least get that look off, right? I mean, that's a wide open 3 with about 15 feet of space there, and we get that. And we actually got that play probably 3 or 4 times that game. And in the NIT there. And again, if you run that back, this screen needs to happen down in here. Kendall doesn't even wait on it, but you're just putting a skilled 5-man against a guy that's just not used to it in an awkward situation. And you're getting a wide open jump shot there with your best player kind of sending a guy back door. Now, here's the same thing. We're forwards out again. And here we are, we're forwards out. We're going to send that, and he becomes the second guard. We're going to send him back door, get the ball to the middle of the floor. We shoot up. Now it's the same thing, right? We're sending him back door. Boom. Terry could post if he wants to. Now this is not an advantage for us, so we're not going to post him. We throw it back. We get the pin down, and now we have our 2 best players on the same side of the floor playing a pin down game on that side of the floor. All out a point down the middle, where your options are, I can post up a forward, I can post up a guard. I can throw it here. I can use a ball screen, get into the middle of the paint if I want. I have a roll replace on the back side. I can throw it back here. I can set a pin down. I can send somebody back door and get a jump shot for my center. I can set a pin down and get my 2 best players playing 2-on-2 on the same side of the floor. All those options just out of point down the middle. So are there any questions on point down the middle? Okay, so the next one's point over the top. Again, keep it simple, stupid. You call it what it is, right? So here we are again, 2 guard front, and spacing's kind of bad here, but this is like a 7th year senior. Has a great story, but he gets it, right? So he's behind the defender. Again, you can just see the difference when you're behind him. This guy's just a little bit uncomfortable. You're just trying to make that guy just a little bit uncomfortable. And so we're going to go forwards out very slowly. Again, the pace is a little bit different at American. And again, so we throw it here. YY's, got some unbelievable strength, so he's able to catch this somewhat close. But again, so here we are, point over the top. So again, it is what it sounds like. You're going over the top of the ball screen. Down the middle is down the middle. So we're over the top of the ball here. Now here's your option. So this guy has the option, and it's always the guy that's getting screened for that has the option. And everything that you do, the guy that's getting screened for has the option, and everything else is read off of that. So he's got the option. He can cut back door. He can use this ball screen. He can curl it if he wants to, and I'll show examples of when this is a non-shooter curling this option here. But what he's going to do is he's going to use it, and it's going to turn into a handoff ball screen roll replay. Pretty simple, right? But what you're doing is you're putting a center in a bad position. He has no idea what he's doing, right? This is foreign to him. This might as well be trigonometry to me. He has no idea. So you're getting a dribble handoff roll replace. And your spacings here, again, skip passes. I'm a big proponent of skip passes. This could be a skip pass to this corner because this guy's going to be over here and help, but here we are. It's going to be a ball screen, roll replace. Again, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's never guarded the point and then have to guard a ball screen and a roll and and be awkward back here. And he's thinking about his exam that he has next week. He's not worried about anything. Like, he's worried about all that, and then you get this, there's your middle drive right there. Boom. Off a ball screen. You're getting downhill. Everybody's sucked tight. Getting downhill. Everybody gets messed up. You have your roll replace man that would be here if everything happens, but instead we get a dump off for a dunk, right? So pretty simple stuff on point down the point over the top here. So here we are, forwards out again. Remember what I said. These 2 guys here are non-shooters. These 2 guys are shooters. So we're gonna run forwards out. Boom. We reverse it. Again, he becomes the second guard, right? After he reverses it, he becomes the second guard. So what's he doing? He's cutting through opposite where the ball came. He's getting his center open. Now Zoe probably left a little bit early, but again, where did he start? Started back behind this guy, so this guy's already feeling awkward, right? He knows that he's coming up here, but he's feeling awkward because he's behind him, right? So here we go. We're the second guard. We're throwing it in. And again, he got the ball in the middle of the floor over the top. Our best player's here, right? Okay. And this is something that we would run. And again, so his options are he can throw it back here, and we can set a double screen if we wanted to. He can throw it back here. He can set a ball screen on this side. Now you're in a roll replay. Instead, we're going to go, he goes over the top, and he's going to play on the same side. That's what we call it, playing on the same side. He can play opposite. There's no wrong movement in it. But here we are, our best player again. Now this screen's got to happen lower. Coach Krill would be unbelievably upset right now. But like we got to get this screen down here in the corner, and you want them to come together on this, but he doesn't. He cuts back door. So now you have this guy who's guarding one of the more skilled foremen in the league, out on the perimeter with no help side really, just in an awkward position. So he's coming for this closeout here, right? So he's guarding the back door with his hands up in the air. Not sure, why, but he's doing this. And now he's running out here to come and defend a skilled four-man one-on-one in space. Boom. We get an isolation, and we'll live with it, right? We score on that. So that's just point over the top out of forwards out. So here we are in transition. Things are kind of messed up, right? Everybody's kind of scrambling, but we get settled back into two guards. You can see Kendall here. Let's reverse it. And this is like one of the few times we got into low post play when I was at Richmond, right? This looks like low post play. We send a guy through, and this is the way that when you have positionless players, this is how you can do it, right? We dribble this guard back door, he's open. And again, because he got low, if you're a good referee, that's a foul. You should be shooting free throws, right? He's literally grabbing him around his neck. So, but here he goes. That's a cut. He's probably open, right? He's not. So instead of this guard coming back through, he understands the offense. He's going to stop here and get to something that he recognizes, right? You want to get to your 4-out-1-in, something you recognize. That doesn't have to be a 6'9" guy. This is going to be our 5'6" point guard. Boom. We're into point. Reverse to the top of the key. He's in the middle of the floor. He shoots up, and now he becomes the center. Number 5 comes to the corner, right? Now this is an example of we don't run it right? We're in something that we kind of recognize, but like Kendall's supposed to roll on this after he hands this off. We get a screen here, down screen again. Kendall's supposed to, roll replace. Probably don't want Kendall to roll replace. We probably don't want our 5'6" guy rolling. But because we're in the offense, because guys are moving, look at the guy that's guarding him right now. Do you think he has any idea what he's doing? I'm guarding a 5'6" guy at the elbow. What do you like? This is like NBA Jam. Like I have no idea what I'm doing here. We got the handoff roll replace. We could throw it back here. That's a wide open jump shot because everybody's kind of messed up. Kendall pops. He's the best scorer in the league. Everybody's scrambling. Look at these three guys. All because Kendall stopped through. He shot up. They knew the offense. Even if you're in 5 out, nobody knows kind of what you're doing. You ran the offense. We get a drive against a bad closeout for our best player. So that's point over the top. And again, you have so many options on it. Nothing's wrong on your options. It's just the action that you're using. So any questions on over the top? All right, the last one is point screen away. And this one is really, really good if you have really good 4 and 5 men. I don't know why this okay. If you have really good 4 and 5 men. So I'm going to run this back. This is kind of quick here. So again, we called it point here. And so the premise of the screen away is that you want the screen, quote unquote, to happen. You want to meet at the elbow. And a lot of teams are going to get really, really physical here like this. So you'll hear guys talk a lot about fighting for the elbow. So you want to fight here for this elbow right here and get to this elbow, fight for it, and get there. And Josh does a decent job here. But watch the spacing here. The spacing's pretty good. This is our center over here, by the way, in the corner. Somehow, I don't know, the clip was short, so I don't know how he got over here. But that's our center in the corner, right? So here we are. We get our 4-man and our 3-man. Our 3-man cuts back door. Watch what their guys do. They react to that back door cut, right? Again, this guy's not used to that. He's not used to having to guard the ball on the perimeter and then have to guard a screen, and he's just not used to it. We throw it back here. This is a non-shooter. Anybody that has that much space is a shooter. I don't care who he is. Like, I don't care if he's blind. He's got to, that's could be Stevie Wonder. He's a shooter. He's that much space. And all of that is because you're putting your four-man in a position where he doesn't know if he's switching on this backdoor cut. Number one, makes an unselfish play, and the basketball gods are good because watch this. He gets the tip in. He makes an unselfish play. He comes back. He gets the tip in. Here we are, forwards out. Again, our scorers, our non-scorers. And this is a great example. Okay, so Josh says that he's going to send him through. Terry says no. Josh becomes a second guard. We send him through. Here we are. Point, screen away. Now, this is an example of they get jammed up here. So Kendall can't get to the elbow. You know, this is a foul, right? This is where you as a coach have to really beg for a foul and get that foul call. I mean, that's a foul. That's going to always be a foul. This guy needs to blow the whistle. But that's beside the point. So here we are. This is a 4-5 ball screen. This is going to turn into a 4-5 ball screen. But because they're over-aggressive, Kendall cut through. He made a good decision to cut through. He's got to get out of there quicker. You know, VCU is a little bit over-aggressive. You know, we throw this here. We're getting a drive for a 2-foot finish. But what I really want to emphasize here is this is going to turn into a 4-5 ball screen. And for some reason, 4-5 ball screens, you know, are hard to guard. Because the 4-man is just going to want to switch it. The 5-man's going to want to do everything. Is going to want to hedge it because he's never switched, right? How many of you guys have your 5-man switch with your point guard during every other ball screen? Probably not a lot, right? So he's not used to switching it. So a lot of teams are going to say, well, we'll just switch the 5-4 ball screen. Your 5's never done it. And I'll show you an example on the next clip, I think it is, where he's just not used to it. Now, this is a little bit different, but like if you watch right here, as this guy's coming for this screen right here, this 5's not ready to switch this. He's not ready to switch that at all. If this guy would have played it straight up and played it in here and came off of it, we probably would have been able to turn the corner on that if we wanted to. Instead, he overplays it, 2-foot finish for a layup here. So here we are in transition. Well, kind of transition. So 2-guard front, forwards out again. Okay, a lot of forwards out. We send that. This is the second guard. We send him through. Boom. We catch it in a pretty good spot here. Now, again, Chandra does a great job here of fighting for that elbow, right? We're fighting for that elbow, bringing them together, fighting for the elbow. Now, here's an option here. Boom. Okay. So we throw the ball here and we're sprinting into a ball screen. Terry's got to get to the corner, but we're going to sprint into this ball screen, right? We have options here. You can throw it here, right? We could throw it down here. He could get a pin down at American. This would be a pin down. We'd throw it down here. Like you have different options, but we get into a ball screen here. We decided that's what we're going to do. Kendall, you can come set this screen if you want. You don't have to. Nothing's wrong. So our center pops back. Instead of rolling, he decides that he's going to pop back. So we throw it here. What's an option? We set a double down, a double away here. So he just cut back. He just cut back door off this screen. Now he's coming off a double. Watch this defender real quick. What he has to do. He just guarded a ball screen. Now he's guarding a double away. I mean, he's turning like a top. You know, because he's just not used to it. This guy guarded a backdoor cut, relaxed for a second. Now he's guarding a double screen. We get into the middle of the paint again. Boom. Middle of the paint for a layup. Different options off of it, and none of them are wrong. So here we are out of transition again. Run in the middle of the floor. We cut through. Now this is, you know, hey, we snap it to the top of the key. This is what we call snapping to the top of the key, snapping to point, snap it to point, boom. Terry shoots up. Here we are, screen away. Now look how Chandra fights for that elbow. This creates the whole thing. He fights for the elbow. This center has no idea. Like this is the center actually. He just sprinted the floor, had to guard and sprint the floor. So he's already tired. I'm tired for him. He just sprinted all the way down the floor. Now he's got to sprint up to the elbow. So now I'm even more tired for him. So now he catches this ball here. Now look at this. Now you got a 4-5 ball screen, right? You got a 4-5 ball screen coming towards two shooters on this side. He's getting fouled. This guy needs to blow the whistle. He's getting fouled, right? Boom. Now you have a 4-5 ball screen. This guy's not used to switching, right? Your 5s aren't used to switching anything. 4-5 ball screen. This guy's scared to death. He just had to guard a trailer. He's had to guard a screen, backdoor cut with one of the better players. Now you have your two best shooters on the same side of the floor with a 4-5 ball screen. Again, he's not used to switching. What is he doing? He's hard hedging like he's done every day in practice since September, right? Because he's never seen a 4-5 ball screen. And again, Stevie Wonder. Like, it don't matter. Like, that much space, guys are going to knock down this shot. These guys have to be tight. If he really wanted to, he probably could have turned that corner and got a dunk, right? And there's your middle drive again. Boom. But he decides he's gonna shoot it. You know, lucky for us, it goes in. Lucky for us, it's early in the game. But, you know, you have your two shooters on this side of the floor. Your spacing's good. You get a jump shot. So any questions on the point series?
Now, do they have options to go to curl the screen on point away, or kind of how do you teach those?
Yeah. So actually, we actually at American, your options were cut back door or curl. Like we had guys that like, hey, like cut back door or curl, and a curl is just the same thing as a back door for us. It's the exact same thing. It's getting a guy open, and I'll show you an example here as we get into like a full clip of where a non-shooter, we would tell him to curl everything as opposed to cut back door, because a lot of times that guy, for some reason, that curl just turns into an extra screen. As opposed to the backdoor cut, kind of turns into a reactionary thing. But a curl is as good as a cut for us. It's the exact same thing. And we're not really looking, unless you're one of the guards that we're trying to get a shot for, you're really looking to curl just to open up the next guy a lot of times. And that it just turns into another screen for the most part. Any other questions on the point series there? Like I said, the point series, and it's different places you go. So, you know, when I was at American, the point series was more used to get to the next part of the offense. And it was kind of opened up of, you know, hey, we're running point over the top. And all we're trying to do is get to the roll replace. Like we see something and we want to get to the roll replace. At Richmond, Moon would never really call it. He would call like, hey, forward's out and let's play. So then it was totally up to you. Like you had the options. If I threw it here, I decided I want to go down the middle, I go down the middle. And that's where your IQ, your good players, they start to understand as you run the offense, as you start to do stuff of, hey, like Terry's got like our four-man, you know, Mike, our four-man, he's got an idea of, you know, he can post. Let's go forwards out, point down the middle to Mike, and let's post him up. You know, and it's as simple as that. It's just staying the game, understanding your matchups, and putting yourself in good positions for that. So any other questions? Go ahead.
Like when you guys curl pop, or if he backdoors and pops,
right,
and you hit the pop guy and that guy drives, but he can't get to the basket, and if he like dead pivots or stride stops, what's the spacing off of that? Are you hitting is the 5-man filling, or are you just playing out of that?
Just play. I mean, what makes sense? You know, and that's the thing is what makes sense? Is your 5-man, is the 5-man turning and running and going and doubling the guy that dribbled? If that's the case, is your 5-man a shooter? If it's TJ Klein, TJ's coming around behind it, we're going to get a wide open jump shot from a 40% jump shooter. If it's American University and it's our center, we're telling him go to the front of the rim and the next guy come around. You know, so it's just kind of like a play thing. And again, the biggest thing is getting back to something you recognize. You know, and I'll show you an example of what it looks like when it's not 4 out 1 in and you have to get back to it. But for the most part, if you're in 4 out 1 in and you're in something you recognize, it doesn't matter who's where, you can get back to something you recognize just about out of anything and just kind of play for it. So let's say that he does drive baseline and there's no help or anything like that, and he gets to the block and he throws it back and four around guys and he throws it back out. You're right back into point. You're right back into 4 out 1 in into something that you recognize. So it's always you always be in something that you recognize, something that's recognizable. But really, you're just playing. You know, on that kind of stuff where there's drives. You know, what have you been taught? You know, guy drives baseline, get a guy to the corner, fill in behind. Maybe your center drops to the front of the rim. You're just reading and reacting, just like you are in the normal offense. If he's playing on the top side of me, I'm cutting back door, right? You know, so it's just you're again, it's keep it simple, stupid. You know, you're just trying to do what makes sense and really just play basketball. It's not like a magical play. It's like, you know, and you can run it as sets, like you certainly can. Like you can say, hey, I'm going to run point over the top, cut back door, like we did against Miami, and like you can make that a call if you wanted to. We can call it purple, you know, we can call it whatever we wanted to, and run it and get a layup, get a jump shot off of it. But at the same time, we don't have to call it, and it just makes sense for those guys to run it. So, you know, as far as like your reactions and stuff like that, as long as you just playing basketball, you'll eventually get back to your offense eventually. Good question. Any others on point? Okay, so the next thing, how am I doing on time here? I'm not on a time limit, am I, or anything like that?
You're good to go.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So counter. Okay, so counters here. So obviously in scouting, everybody's going to try to deny the point. You know, you're going to see that a ton. Teams are going to try to deny the elbow, the point. And then you're going to see a lot of times where guys play off of non-shooters. So how do you counter those things, right? Because you gotta be able to counter those. And this is some things that we've done at different places, and it's very simple, right? You got to keep guys honest. You know, the first time that you get Rub here, so this is Rub again. This is Saeed, best player in the league, like for 3 years. Like he was the best player in the league for 3 years. If this dude doesn't play in the NBA someday, I'd be shocked. I really would. Again, this is like one of those examples of Mark does a great job of staying back here. And you see this quite a bit here, you know, in St. Francis, Brooklyn, when they played us in the NIT, I mean, these dudes were like standing here before we even got there. Like we were still standing back here. We probably could have just thrown the ball up to the rim and got layups after layups, but he's playing on top and he's going to deny the point pass. So there's options that you have on when guys are denying the point pass. One of them is rub, right? So here we are with rub, and we're just sending that second guard through, same thing, and literally just dribbling off of it. He makes a great basketball play there. If Stacy would have got there quicker, it would have been a jump shot for him. But it literally, all it is you're just rubbing off that ball screen. You know, great basketball play there. That's an and one. And so just great basketball play. Here we are. We're sending him through. Now Richmond runs it a little bit different, right? So Richmond runs this guy through, and instead of sending him all the way to the corner, because again, what are we trying to skilled 5-man, right? You know, Steven, you asked earlier, the skilled 5-man. So we're going to pop him because again, look at this guy. This is a 5-man. He's out on the perimeter guarding. We'll pop this guy, and he knows that he's got to guard him because he's a good shooter, right? So we're going to stop this guy here, you know, to counter this. And we're going to reverse it through the center. And now we're getting a down screen for our best player. He just went through. No help in the middle of the floor. This is your shot blocker. He's out here guarding a 40% three-point shooter. And now you're getting a 2-man game. And, you know, again, what was one of my points earlier was catching the ball, right? He catches the ball. It's a dunk. Instead, he, you know, fumbles it and we don't get anything out of it. But again, we got that down screen on that side. And now we're just playing our best players, got that side isolated. We got a skilled 5-man that can pass the ball, you know, and nobody in the middle of the paint. And that's just a counter that you can run, a rub type counter. And I mean, this is unbelievable here that we can get this. Again, this is rub. I mean, that's college basketball, and we're getting wide open layup on that. I'll show that one more time. I don't know why it wouldn't stop. So again, we send him through, ball screen. And again, look, he's denying this all the way up here, right? So if they decide that they're going to deny that point pass, I promise you do that 1 or 2 times, they're not going to deny the point pass anymore. You're not going to have a problem anymore. It might only be 1 time. So that's just your basic rub, just a basic read, and you don't even have to call it. It can just be a read. So this is spin, and I'll show you a couple ways, you know, a couple things that happens out of spin. And again, keep it simple, stupid. It is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to spin, right? So here we are. We send that second guard through, and he's open. You can throw the ball to him. So this must have been a call out of a time. It looks like it might have been a call out of the media. Sending him through. He's got to get out of the way. He got hung up on that screen. But again, Saeed dribbles to the middle of the floor, spins. I mean, get a layup out of it. They're not going to deny the point anymore. And they're not going to deny this wing anymore if you want to throw it to the wing, right? All because you got that spin. See if I can get to the next one here. All right, so here we are. We're spin again. We send that guard through. Okay, again, get to the middle of the floor. Good. Kind of get this guy open. Now, look, he's denying here, so we spin, right? So now this is where it gets interesting. So these are your options, right? So you want to throw to this wing here, right? If he's open, go ahead and throw it to him. Coach Brennan's biggest thing is if he's open, throw it to him. Duh. Like that's Coach Grill's thing too. If he's open, throw it to him. It's like in football. If the guy's open, you throw it to him. Like, you know, it's a simple sport. That's like the basics of sports, right? So he's open. He decides he's going to come get the ball. He goes into a handoff. Now, they get a backdoor cut on this, you know, and this is a counter to a counter. So I don't know why I put it in here, and I apologize. But he hands it off. He sets the screen. This is supposed to turn into a ball screen where you're trying to get downhill, right? And then you can pop this guy. You have some options there, but you're trying to get downhill on this ball screen. You pop out. Instead, they get a backdoor cut for a layup, all because he overplayed. So here we are again. Now this is a poor spacing. Stacy's got to get up here to this free throw line extended. He's coming through. Saeed's got to wait another second for this spin, but I'll kind of show you the premise. So he's going to cut back door. Now here's your options. He cuts back door. He can stop and post. Why is he not open? Because he's in front of him. Stop and post. We'll snap it to this wing. If he decided that he wanted to stop and post, we'd throw it right in there. That's a great option if you have like a forward over here that you want to post. Run spin, cut him back door. Look where everybody else is out on the floor, right? Everybody's going to be sucked tight. The center already guarded him and denied it. That's why he's all the way up here. Everybody, the only one that can really help out on any type of post play is probably this guy in this far corner. That's where your skip passes come in, right? So he should really post. Now, this is what we call drifts, and at Richmond, we kind of got rid of them because teams would just go under them. But, you know, Indiana guys, we think drift. We think we're fading for a jump shot, right? A drift on the East Coast, I learned really quick, was you pop straight back and it turns into a ball screen. So he throws it to the wing here because he started in the corner. He replaced because the wing cut. And ideally, we would throw this ball here, and this would turn into a ball screen. Again, here's your downhill drive. Boom, right? Your downhill drive. If he goes underneath it, we just turn it into a jump shot, right? Or let's say that he comes and tries to meet you on this side. I mean, I don't know why he would do that, but sometimes he meets you on this side. You know, this hedge is here. But a lot of times you're just throwing it back here, and it just turns into a downhill ball screen. This is actually because he's overplaying it. We get a slip here. Boom. And now here's an example of throwing the ball inside. So here we are. Spin. Now, again, this is a backdoor cut. This is actually really good spacing for the most part. He needs to be probably a step lower. But we get spin. He shoots up. He's probably open, right? But this guy reacts. Boom. Here we are. Stop. Now, here's another option that you have that you can just play out of. Let's say that he's not open on this drift where he can catch and go downhill. Actually, he probably is. If he would have caught this probably would have been a layup for him if he wanted to, if he would have stepped back here, or a jump shot for this guy in the corner. They end up not doing it, right? This guy can curl around all the way here, and you see it. We would get this late every once in a while. This guy curling, he ended up throwing it inside a little bit quick. If he would have waited another second, 41's wide open here on that curl on that backside. And ideally, you'll throw that late. And then this guy just in a predicament. Does he guard the corner? Does he guard this guy curling around? Or if you throw it in the post, you can also throw it in there as well. Instead, we get an isolation here for our guard. And again, Coach, you asked earlier, what happens? Again, it's just kind of this is a complete isolation. But you got your best player isolated one-on-one. He misses the layup, but you kind of get the idea there. So any questions on some of those basic counters when points denied? All right, center out, and this is something that we ran at Richmond. Again, this is if you have a really, really skilled center. We'd run center out just to get the center, the opposing team's center moving, right? So here we are. We send the first guard through, and this time we throw it to the wing, and we send the second guard through too. So you see your two guard front, your same front. You sent that second guard through, and instead of him going all the way to the opposite corner, he's going to stop here at this block. And this is more of a call that we would run. So this is something that you can kind of run if you want to post your four-man. This is another option to post your four-man here. So we reverse it here to the guy that we want to score, and the center just comes to the top of the key. So now your shot blocker's out here again. I mean, look at him. Like, he's like, why am I still on the perimeter? Like, all I've done is guard on the perimeter this entire game. I haven't done this all year, right? So what happens is that second guard, or that first guard, will throw it to this wing, and he'll just stop and set this. I would call it a Wisconsin swing. Being from the Midwest, out here they call it a shuffle. But here, and we just reverse it over here, and all it turns into is a double screen there for that four-man to come to that block. He would clean up this screen here. He doesn't have to because we get the isolation in the post. We throw it out. We get some movement, and we get a nice little jump shot there. But again, that's one option on center out. Here's another option on it. Now this is something that we would run. Again, if your center is really, really skilled, this is something that you can do where he can throw some passes here. And this is something that like Coach Mooney drew up on a napkin one day at lunch, and it was awesome. So again, this is what happens when you're in 5 out, right? So ideally, what would happen is if you ever get to this situation, you would dribble at one of these guys, cut them back door, they would stop at the block, and you're back into 4 out 1 in. You're back into your basic principal shell, or Princeton shell. But instead, for some reason, and it's unbeknownst to me, the more film I watch, like if there's a guy in this corner and somebody dribbles at him, this guy freaks out 9 times out of 10 and overplays it, and you get a backdoor cut. I don't know what it is. If it's just like, I have no idea. But TJ literally looks like he's distressed. He's really not. We sent the guy up over the top. Boom. Backdoor cut. Here we are. One more. Ended up being a drive against the closeout. But that's just a couple center out things where you can bring a center away from the basket as a counter. So any questions on the center out with a skilled center? Okay, so now this is corner, and this is something that we ran exclusively at American, and this is if you have a center that you want to catch catch the ball. If you want to throw the ball inside to your center, out of this offense, out of this structure, this is it. So this is basically, instead of sending one guard through, you're sending both guards through. So you reverse it all the way to the corner, and you're sending both guards through. The first guard is going to ball side. The second one's going opposite. So you're scissoring it. So you'll notice that in most of the offense, everything's above the free throw line, right? For the most part. In corner, everything's below the free throw line. You're trying to throw the ball inside. So we're trying to catch the ball here at the elbow. And again, so the zero has options then after he throws it to 23. Ideally, you want him to come down here and screen, and the next clip he does. He comes down here and screens, and it turns into a roll replace. Here he gets a handoff off of it, and again, all it is a roll replace. Trying to throw it back to throw it in. Throw it back to throw it in. And it's very, very simple. All you're doing is you're getting your center to move. You're getting your center to move their center so you can throw it inside. So here we are again. The two guards scissor. Here we are. We catch it at the elbow. Now here's an example. 5 is going to come down here and screen here in the corner, right? Boom. We throw it. Ball screen. Roll replace. Throw it inside. And now we're isolating. Boom. Isolating our center for a hook shot. So again, if you have a guy that you want to throw the ball inside to, and you're just like, hey, we're hammering our head against the wall here. We've been throwing it inside for the last 3 possessions. We haven't got anything. Let's make the center move a little bit. Corner is one of those things that you can do. So any questions on corner? All right. So handoffs are really, really important. And it's something that at Richmond we ran a ton. And this is more so TJ just kind of came up with it one day in practice. Like, hey, that's really good. So this is a set call that we kind of ran. One of the few times we threw it into TJ in this game. And again, it's like the few times that guy looked comfortable doing it, or guarding the ball, or guarding anything. So here we are, as you can see, just good movement. Again, we're 4 out, 1 in for the most part, just kind of playing. Now this is what we called hands, right? And this is hard to guard for some reason. I don't know why. But what happens is he's going to throw the ball. This guy should be at a dead sprint. You can see his hands are up like, hey, I'm here for you. He's going to throw it, and then he's going to take one dribble and go right back at him. And this guy relaxes. This guy relaxes. Hands. And it's pretty simple. Now this guy, we get a wide open jump shot off of it. So hands is basically anytime that you're sprinting. This is a better example of it here. Now, remember when I said this guy's a non-shooter? Number 5 is like a non-shooter. Like my life insurance policy went up every time that he shot a jump shot. Like it was that dangerous. Like it was bad. But look where he started. He starts all the way over here. He knows his role, right? This is one of our better players, right? So he starts on a dead sprint over here. He's screaming, hands, 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 hands. Throws it to him, dead sprint, one dribble, handoff. Now, boom. Okay, so this is important too. This guy, after he hands it off, he's going to set a flat screen here. And what that does is Chandra reads this wrong, but it makes this read really, really, really easy. If he sets this flat screen here like he just did, Chandra should be driving where? He should be driving to his right probably for a layup here. He ends up driving left, but he still scores because he's really good, right? But by setting this screen here flat after the handoff, it makes the read very easy. If this guy comes on this side of the screen over here, it should be a right-handed drive. If he comes on this side of the screen for some reason, it should be a left-handed drive. If he sits behind it, let's shoot the jump shot, right? And so, again, he starts all the way over here. He sprints. Look at this defender. He's not ready to guard. He's standing straight up. Now he's got to guard. Now he's like, oh, crap, I got the ball. Now he's sitting behind. Now he's like, I have no idea what to do on this handoff. We haven't talked about this all week. I have no idea what to do. This guy just guarded the ball. He relaxes. He relaxes for a second, see him turn his head. He turned his head thinking, I'm going to get a down screen. Ball's away from me. Now I'm going under it. And again, Chandra reads it wrong. That should be a right-handed drive for a layup. But instead, we get a really good play there. One-handed passes in pre-practice are important. We get a one-handed pass there. So here we are. TJ gets hit in the face, kind of. And again, so this is, say you have a trail 4, right? Trail 5, trail 4. His man's all the way back here. He's a non-shooter, right? I mean, I'm telling you, I'm letting that fly if I catch it, but he's a non-shooter, okay? So he understands his role. He understands that if this guy's far enough off of him, I'll go right into a dribble handoff for my best player. So he catches it, dribble handoff, boom, turns and sets the screen. That's an easy read right there for the best player on the floor, right? He's underneath it, dribble handoff, turns and sets that screen, easy read, boom. And I mean, here's another example of this is a good one too. This is at UMass. Here we are. We run the rub. We throw it back. We get a down screen. We don't get something from it, right? Okay, so now we're into 4 out, 1 in. Terry stops. There's a middle drive. Boom. There's a middle drive. We throw it out. Nothing. Now watch Trey. Wanted hands, right? Didn't get it from him. So he cuts through. We throw it into the post to our 4-man. Throw it back out. Now here we are. Boom. Trey realizes, hey, I don't have anything. We've kind of been moving around a little bit. We're still out in 4 out, 1 in. We're in something we recognize. I can always play hands, and I can always dribble with somebody. I can always play. And coach, the terminology we would use would play with somebody, play with him. So here we get a down screen for this guy. So this guy's guarding a down screen. Now a handoff. Again, look at he turns and screens. It's an easy read for a shooter. That's a 40% three-point shooter. Turns and screens, easy read. This guy just had to guard a down screen into a handoff. Kendall's got to pop and get out of the way. But again, easy read. Knowing your role. Non-shooters, dribble handoff. Play hands with somebody. And it all flows into your offense and something that's really, really effective for us. So any questions on the handoffs or hands?
What are your thoughts on turning more of the like point away and point over instead of ball screens, turning them into more handoffs with the 5-man?
You do. You can. And there's nothing wrong with it. TJ actually would do that quite a bit. Now, TJ was really, really good with hands. I'm a big proponent of the hands where you throw it, follow it. There's just something about it that when the ball leaves a guy's hands, it's just natural for us to stand up, right? So now you're sprinting into it. So now that defender is guarding really 3 things. He's guarding the ball. Now he's guarding in help side. Now he's guarding a ball screen, basically, right? But turning that into and there's nothing, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a little bit slower, maybe. And it makes you you have to hand it off at that point, right? Like you can't snap it and then go set a screen away somewhere. Like you almost have to turn it into a dribble handoff ball screen. But you certainly can. And a lot of times what you can do with that too is you can dribble at somebody and send them back door. So you say you go point screen away, they meet at the screen, right? Guy cuts back door, you throw it to that guy, and instead of sprinting into a ball screen, you dribble at him and he cuts back door. Certainly can do that, and we've done that before. Point screen away, dribbling back door again, and then it just continues to flow. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. Again, it's not, people say the Princeton offense and they think it's methodical, or they think that it's like it's like a robot. It's not. It's just, you're just playing basketball. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as you're back into 4 out, 1 in, you're going to find something that you can do out of it. But that's a great question. And it's not wrong. There's not like Coach Mooney would always say, just as long as you're playing basketball and as long as you're making reads, as long as you're being unselfish, you're playing basketball. It's almost like the old, it's not a system necessarily as much as it is just a structure. So that's good. Any other questions on the handoffs or anything like that? Like I said, I'm a big proponent of hands. There's just something about guarding the ball and then the ball's away from you. Because like you saw in the one clip, guys guarding the ball gets thrown away, and his first instinct is to look like, hey, where's my screen coming from? Or, hey, I'm turning my head away because he's going to go screen for somebody. Well, crap. Now now my guy's got the ball again. So now I react, and now I got to guard a ball screen basically, or a handoff. Like that's hard to do. Like you're doing 4 things in a split second. And so then you're late on your hedge, you're late on your communication, and everything kind of flows from there. So there's no more question on that. We'll go to play the other way, which is another thing. So here we are. This is another option on center out. You see the center comes out and catches it, and you're just ripping for a UCLA screen. So I'll play it from the beginning. You're sending that first guard through. Center comes up, catches middle of the floor. That second guard goes through. And instead of that first guard going all the way to the corner, he just stops at the block. You set the UCLA. You're really not trying to get anything off of it other than just get this guy moving, right? mean, if he's open, you throw it to him. I mean, you might be able to throw that right there for a layup if you really wanted to. But again, you're just kind of throwing it. You throw it back to the top of the key. Now, this is point, right? This looks like point, right? You could throw it to point. Chandra makes the decision as soon as he catches, he's going to play the other way, right? So, again, this guy knows his role. He's going to cut back door. He comes off of this. We're not getting anything. But he cuts back door. Stops and post. Boom. Throw it inside, right? It's the same thing as spin, basically, right? Now you got your drift here, which can turn into a ball screen downhill, okay? Kendall never even looks inside, probably needs to, okay? But we throw it here. There's a down. I mean, he should really – TJ should probably turn and screen. That should be a jump shot, right? But you're getting a downhill ball screen. Your center pops. And again, here we are. You're in 4 out, 1 in with your center at the top of the key. And this is a double play away, right? Chandra is going to shoot up for point again. Your center is going to dribble this guy back door. Boom, layup. So there you are playing the other way. You play the other way twice. You got 3 different guys in the post. And you got your center. Literally, their center went from inside to outside to inside to outside 2 times. I mean, there's not many centers in the country that are going to want to do that, need to do that, have ever done that. So you're just getting that center away from the basket, and your 5'6" point guard gets a wide open layup. Drifts, like I said, it kind of went away from them a little bit at Richmond, and you saw one right there. And again, drifts are a little different on the East Coast than they are here. You cut back door. It's a double cut back door. And again, this drift, all you're trying to do is get a ball screen going downhill. Popping straight back. We say pop straight back. This guy's going to go up over the top of the screen. If he goes under it, it's a jump shot. If he goes over the top of the screen, again, it's an easy read, right? Like you're forcing this guy to tell him what to do. He goes over the top of it. There's your ball screen. You're going to roll replace. Center's rolling towards the middle of the basket. Now remember what I said about skip passes, right? Here's a perfect one. Who's in help side? Helping who's responsible to tag the roll man? This guy's responsible to tag the roll man. He tags him. Skip pass. Jump shot. And that's just basic drift action there. So here we are again, low post play. Dribble this guy back door. Okay, so that's what happened. So he played the other way here. Saeed decided to play the other way. We cut back door. Stops and posts. And again, all it is we get the drift over the top. You're the best player in the league, one-on-one against the center. We'll live. Last couple clips here, couple full possession. Any questions on those counter on the drifts or anything like that? All right, so here's a couple full possessions. And again, so the reason I'm showing these possessions are because they aren't perfect, right? I could show you a perfect possession where it's like somebody gets messed up and it's against a D3 team and we end up winning. I can show you that. But this is what happens when it's not perfect, right? This setup isn't great. This is forwards out. Saeed's walking. This guy's actually behind the guy, which is good. So again, the pace isn't great. We throw it inside. Again, American, you're trying to throw the ball inside. That's not throwing it inside. That's throwing it to, 19 feet. But you throw it here. Now 5 decides that he's going to cut through, right? We never talked about it, but hey, any movement's a good movement. So, sure, whatever. We fill the corner very lazily. Marvin's got to get there, get to the corner, get there quick, right? But here we are. We snap to the top of the key. Look where he's at. He's in the middle of the floor. That's good. That's where we wanted him. Snap to the top of the key out of the low post. What's he doing? He's following the point. Boom. We're into point. We decide to play the other way. He decides that he's not going to cut back door and play the other way. Probably a good read. But he doesn't get a jump shot out of it. So what are we in? Into a ball screen, just like we normally would if it was a drift, something that we recognize, right? We get the roll replace. We're right back into 4 out, 1 in. Throw the skip. We throw it inside. Boom. Again, we're in 4 out, 1 in. We're in second, something we recognize. We threw it inside. We got some movement. We got it in point. We got a drift. We got just about everything we wanted out of our offense. We get a one-on-one post move. We just don't make it, right? We get the ball back out of bounds, right? So that possession there, we got everything. We got what we wanted, basically. We got, do we get a wide open layup? No. In college basketball, you're not going to get a wide open layup every possession. Do we get a wide open jump shot? No, you're not going to get one every possession. Did you get their center moving and then get a post up because you want to get a post up? Yeah, that's what we got. We just didn't make the shot. So again, that was what I would consider a pretty good possession. So here we are at Richmond. We're forwards out. This was a rock fight of a game. I think the final score was like 50-something to 50-something. It was crazy. So here we are. Not a great pass. Again, not a great pass, not a good possession. Terry's in the middle of the floor. We snap it to the top of the key. And for some reason, Dion decides, hey, we're in 1-2-2. We're in 5 out. We're not going to do 5. Forget point. But how do we get to something that we recognize? We do what? We dribble somebody back door. Boom, we dribble Kendall back door. Kendall realizes, hey, I got dribble back door. We're in 4 out 1 in. We're back into something we recognize. And here we are in point. Boom, right back into point. We're over the top. Now, remember earlier you were talking about curls, right? Everybody in America is doing what on this if I'm number 5? I'm coming off of it for this handoff because this guy's so far back. He knows his role. He curls it. Not even a great curl, really. I mean, that screen's got to happen down in this corner. He doesn't even really curl it and somehow gets this guy open. I have no idea how, but it's like a half a curl, right? So he makes an unselfish play, right? Basketball gods are going to come back to him. He makes an unselfish play. And again, we're kind of in something we recognize. That was point over the top. Kendall goes and sets the screen. He's not going to roll. Okay. All right. So now we're in 5 out, right? Terry's going to realize here, hey, we're in 5 out. Dion decided that he's going to reverse it to me, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it to the corner, and I'm just going to brush screen this and get down into the post. So if nothing happens, we're back into 4 out 1 in, something recognized. Number 5 made an unselfish play over here, right? This brush screen, quote unquote, not even really a brush, just probably more lazy defense. He gets a middle drive off of it for a layup. So he made an unselfish play on the curl. And then because we're just trying to get to something that we recognize, we get a middle drive for a layup. And then here's I think this is the last possession here. Again, get down the floor. But here we are. We throw it to the corner. We're low post play. We dribble this guy back door. He doesn't get low. He doesn't get his hands off of him. It's a lazy cut. We're into the double handoff. We don't set a screen on anybody. We don't roll. But again, we're into something that we recognize. It's still 4 out 1 in to a degree. We get a drift. That's got to be a downhill drive. Again, still not in anything. It's still in something we recognize, though, right? It looks like something that we recognize. We throw it back, throw it in, layup. So that's kind of, and I can stop the share now. So that's those are some full possessions where nothing's perfect. The pace was terrible in that last one, right? Nothing's perfect, but you continue to get back to what you recognize, and then you just played basketball out of it. So that's kind of the whole building blocks of the offense. Obviously, there's different things that you can do that you can build on and stuff like that. But for the most part, that is, the basic 101 of the Princeton offense. How you can run the offense. And I think that the ways that you can add this into your program, right? You don't have to be a strictly Princeton offense. Hey, this is, we're running just the Princeton and this is what we're going to do. You can take different principles from that and add that into your basic motion, add that into, kind of whatever you want in a lot of regards. So are there any questions about the offense, about how to build it in practice, how to, any questions that you guys have?
How did you guys teach reads in practice?
Reps. Just reps. You just had to, and it's pretty simple. Once you do it a couple times, I mean, film, obviously I was a video coordinator at Richmond. So it was I watched a ton of film of it and tried to teach it from there. But reps are big anytime that you're just teaching guys how to play. And the more that they do it, but it's really simple, right? If a guy's on top of me, I'm going to cut back door. If a guy's underneath me and he's playing off of me, okay, I'll use the screen. If my man's standing in the middle of the paint and I'm a non-shooter, I better go ahead and go dribble handoff. It's just, a lot of it is just reads and understanding, playing basketball, and just being unselfish and we would drill it every day in practice, right? So pre-practice or during, this beginning part of practice, you're doing 2-on-2 point screen away, read it. A coach might be there and might be giving them different looks. He might be on top of it one time, might be underneath it the next time. What are you doing? How are you teaching that? But a lot of it was just reps. And then, guys now, if you show it to them, guys see things and they're pretty good when they see things of learning it through vision, right? The video game mentality of, I got to see, everything. So if you show them on film, hey, this is what happens when this guy's on top of it, you can go underneath it. Guys start to like think, okay, yeah, I see it now, and it translates over to the floor a little bit.
I got a quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
So like with Richmond and maybe American, like I know you guys are running the Princeton the whole time as your primary offense, and you showed some counters. Like later in the season, I know like you all have your counters and way defenses guard it. You guys have your own quick hitters and sets that sort of starts in the Princeton but isn't Princeton as much.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you have your plays, obviously. And I'll say this. So at American, more so, we didn't have like quick hitters or anything like that. It was, coach might see something at a timeout and be like, hey, we want to post a certain guy, or hey, we want to, we think that we can get a drive off of this certain, out of point screen away. We think we can get a drive away from it. So he would call that in timeouts. Moon at Richmond, he would come up with some plays. Like we would have some plays that were specific to certain things that we might put in during shoot around, or we might put in, leading up to a game, where it was more so just trying to get, certain guys isolations, or if we saw something like, some teams would just, I'll be honest with you, a lot of teams just went zone against, not a lot, but some teams would just go zone against us just because they didn't want to guard any of it. So then we would spend time putting zone plays in. But, you would obviously have your plays out of your offense, out of your structure. I mean, it's not like we're like drawing up something on the, like something I learned about college coaches is you're not drawing up a play on a board that you never ran before, like at a timeout. Like you very rarely, I've never been around somebody that does that. You like guys want to have practice plays. So, leading up to a game, so for instance, that Wisconsin's flex double staggered screen that we had, right, that I showed where we got the 4-man in there, that was something that we put in day of game that he just thought of, that was like, hey, we'll put it in day of game. And it ended up being something we used later on. That was a call that we had a color for or something like that. We'd have a color call or a number call or something like that we'd use later. But again, it's all out of the offense, right? Like it's not like it was still out of forwards out. It was still out of, something that we recognized. So it's not like we were all of a sudden going to run a 1-4 high set and come down and run that. We were running something out of forwards out, or we were running something out of point down the middle, or something special out of something like that. We would definitely do out of the structure.
And then like on missed shot offense, when you guys are working on your transition, like where do you tell your wings to go to the corner, then fill up, or how does that work where you flow into it?
Just play basketball. I mean, it just kind of depends on, if that guy's already standing out there in the corner, I don't want to run next to him. So it's like if that guy's ahead of me and he's all the way down there, I'll stop at the elbow. I'll stop at the free throw line extended, right? If he's with me and I can run all the way to the corner, I'll run all the way to the corner. It just kind of depends. There's no really rhyme or reason to it necessarily. It's just, you're just kind of playing basketball. I would err on the side of getting all the way to the corner. But again, we weren't running a guy to the rim at Richmond to post him. Like we weren't trying to post TJ. Like we just weren't, like we weren't at American, it was more so run to the wing so we could throw it inside, and it just kind of depended. Just as long as when the ball got across, if we didn't throw it to you and you weren't able to do something with it, is when the ball got across that you were in one of your 4 spots. So just kind of playing basketball, and knowing your personnel. Again, if you want to throw it inside, run to here at Lamar, we're telling our guys, don't even look for the ball until you get to the corner. At Cleveland State, it was don't even look for the ball until you get to the corner. At those places, it was just like, just play basketball, kind of decide what you're going to do and go from there.
Coach, this has been awesome. I feel like everyone knows about the Princeton offense, but I don't feel like many people know the details and the coaching points in depth like you were able to share today. So really appreciate you guys being on. Does anybody have any final questions for Coach?
And if you have any questions, and if you're watching this secondary, not live, I don't know if you can put my contact information in there. You feel free to put my contact information there. Shoot me an email, and I'll feel, love to talk to you about it. Again, it's not it's nothing magical. It's not like, hey, let's wave our wand and we're gonna run the Princeton offense and we're gonna score a bunch of points out of it. And it's not a slow it down like I couldn't imagine doing scheduling for them, because it'd be like, nobody wants to guard it because it's hard to guard. Because again, it's just playing basketball. So if anybody ever wants more teaching points on, or what we did in practice to build it, or what we kind of taught with it, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it. Love to chop it up with you. I love talking basketball. And to be honest with you, one of the cool things that I've had since I've been in college coaching and working for so many different coaches is I've also seen offenses that aren't the Princeton offense, right? Like I've seen, like, we're very, very, very transition-based offense here. So, if I'm ever a head coach someday when I get that chance, I'm really looking forward to the transition offense here and how to implement the Princeton principles into that transition offense and how to mix those two. So just something else to chop it up about. I'm a lot of free time right now. So if anybody ever wants to talk basketball, I'm always free for that. So I really appreciate the opportunity. The Indiana pride runs deep inside the old veins here. So seeing all the Fort Wayne faces and even the Midwest faces are very, 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 very exciting for me. So I appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys. And like I said, put my contact information up there. Get a hold of me anytime. I'd love to talk with you guys about anything that you guys have questions about.
Thanks, Coach. We'll make sure that when we put this up on our website later, we've got your contact information there for people if they want to reach out. But we appreciate you being on this morning. This was excellent. Feel for the game. We're going to keep it going this week. Tonight, we've got Chris Oliver of Basketball Immersion on our Twitter talk at 9 o'clock Eastern. And then we've got a Zoomin In with Bruce Hamburger, assistant coach at Fairleigh Dickinson, on Friday morning at 10:30 Eastern. Thanks to everyone following, and we hope to see you the rest of this week.